Hello. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us again. We hope that you are safe and healthy today. And thank you for sticking around for this third webinar that we are putting together. So let me share my screen so we can start right away. Okay, so my name is Miguel Figueroa. I am in charge of investments at the UNWTO. It's a privilege to be helping you today to lead this conversation. Just to give you a little bit of the background of the series of the webinars that we are having. This is the third webinar, and in this time we are going to focus on green investments and what are the mechanisms, what are the models that we have been working together along with the IFC organization and other key partners. And the main idea, of course, is how can we help to be more sustainable in these recovery times. And just to give you as a background, the last two webinars we were focusing on the frameworks to create and enable different countries and the private sector to invest in the tourism sector, especially given these circumstances that we are going through. And there's a lot of exciting news coming since the release of the news of the vaccines and the jumps of the numbers on the stock market and the recovery kind of assumptions under that. The other thing also that I want to share is that the second webinar, we introduced the first investment guidelines from the UNWTO in order to provide kind of more frameworks and different guidelines for the countries and the private sector to work together in order to promote and attract investments to the sector. In this webinar, we are going to have special guests. We have our executive director, Mr. Manuel Butler from UNWTO. We have Madhu Rajesh, who is the CEO of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, formerly known as the International Tourism Partnership, if I am right. We also have Thomas Luckling. I don't know if I'm saying right, Thomas. He is working as the sustainability lead at Booking.com. And finally, our dear Rusmir Musik, who is working in IFC as well, in charge of the Edge Green Building Program and all global initiatives related with green building. And finally, we have Natalia Bayona, who is our Director of Innovation, Education, and Investment at UNWTO, who will be leading the panel. So as I told you, just to go into the conversation, we released the last two webinars, two different reports. One was focused on FDI greenfield investments with the Financial Times, and we kind of paint the big picture of the flows of capitals that are going on the tourism industry. All this information is available in our website. And the second webinar, we released another report related with the investment guidelines. There is really a lot of insights, and there is a lot of really good information on both of the reports. And one of those informations, and just to recapitulate the two reports and what is important for us this last webinar, is because the new profile of the consumer and the behaviors that are going to happen in the next decade, based on the trends and the drivers that are important in this time, there is like a new profile that is forming beyond the digital consumer, beyond the authenticity that they are looking for, beyond the experience. Now there is other topics related with transparency, related with safety, and of course with sustainability. There is a lot of data related to this. But just to give you a context, the international travelers that we will have in the next decade, an estimation that we have in the UNWTO is 1.8 billion international travelers by 2030. And that kind of represent about 50 million new international travelers per year. And this is kind of one of the main underlying of this conversation, because the high demand, regardless of the impact of the coronavirus, is very important, and it raises a lot of questions related to sustainability. We believe that the virus, of course, has a lot of impact in the sector, but it's just accelerating a lot of the challenges that we are facing, or we have been facing in the last years. One of the insights also from this new consumer behavior is that the markets and the demand from the international travelers will be coming from Asia, like almost 85 to 88%. So there is a lot of new insights and new issues coming with that demand. And just to give you kind of some of the pictures of these trends, in the reports we have a specific section on sustainability, and that's why we believe that is very important for us, and is one of our mandates from the UNWTO, and our executive director will share a little bit about that. So this is kind of one of the underlines of this conversation, assumptions for this webinar. The other underlying assumption is the collaboration and the ecosystem. The tourism sector, as you all know, is a very labor-intensive sector, but also is a system-based kind of economic activity. And there is a huge and entire different value chains and different processes that are mostly small businesses related that are involved in the whole ecosystem in the sector. And that requires key partnerships from the organizations, from the governments, from the financial institutions, from the private sector, and also, of course, with institutions like the UNWTO that act as an interface to articulate and put together all these strategies to come and develop different initiatives. So that is why we are going to start this conversation, and we have really exciting speakers that we all know, and we are going to be answering different questions in the panel. So just to walk you through the agenda, we'll have some welcome remarks from Mr. Manuel Butler, who is the Executive Director of UNWTO. Then we'll have a presentation with Madhu, then Thomas from Booking, and Rosmir. And then we'll have like a short panel led by Natalia. So I will pass the floor to Mr. Manuel Butler. Mr. Butler, whenever you're ready.
Yes, I am here. Do you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Miguel Angel. Great job you are doing in this field. Good afternoon and good morning, dear friends and colleagues worldwide. I would like to share some thoughts with you in these open remarks. First of all, working alongside with the IFC, the largest global development institution focused on the private sector in developing countries, is, as I said several times, more than a need, it is a must. And for us, UNWTO is a great honor to work, keeping working with the IFC. As was mentioned just mentioned by Miguel Angel, I have to say that we are on the right track. For example, with the investment readiness for green finance, in order to promote green finance and to stimulate tourism recovery, it was the first program was developing jointly by both institutions. This joint initiative has reached out to 954, almost 1,000 participants from over 180 countries. I think that's a very good indicator of that we are doing something that is worth, that we are doing something that makes sense. In the frame of this, I have to announce that we have piloting funding opportunities in 6 countries: South Africa, Jamaica, Philippines, Thailand, India, Vietnam, and Indonesia. So we are not only talking, we are doing something, we are coming to action. That's something that we have to be very, very happy about it. As you know, the COVID-19 has decreased the global tourism foreign direct investment, according with our data in the first half of 2020, 73.2%, and that's come fairly aligned with the scenario we published in May, with the 3 scenario pair: best, medium, or neutral, and worst scenario that we are considering that the demand for this year could be fall between 60 and 80%. We are now in the middle scenario that we are considering that this year we can close in the year for the foreign international tourist demand in about minus 70%. We had issue as well in September a projection of this scenario in order how to really recover the pre-COVID, that's mean 2019 demand. And that is between 2.5 years and 4 years. Of course, the news we have received yesterday or the day before yesterday about the vaccine, the advances in the vaccines, they have had some optimism about it. But okay, it will take a couple of 2 years or over 1 year at least to recover the demand of the previous pandemic. And of course, we are in this latent situation, latent demand situation that requires to take measures. And perhaps the point is how to link the emergency response with the long-term focus on delivering the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, why to invest now in sustainability, and how can we address the immediate health and economic impacts of the pandemic while staying on course to achieve the long-term objectives. I think these seminars, these webinars are helping in this way. Makes a lot of sense. We have seen the audience reach out by then. And of course, if we analyze the FDI projects, we see they are highly centralized the past years in the developed countries, highly centralized developed countries. That means that we have to be more inclusive, and that's the main task of the IFC, and we are shoulder to shoulder with the IFC in order to expand, to spread the FDI projects in around the world, and especially to the less developed and developing countries. The most important sector of the industry is the accommodation. That has to do with building, has to do with construction and infrastructure, and the majority of them, they are greenfield investment from scratch, and the trends are in this direction previous the COVID. Today, despite of this decreased global tourism in FDI and on international demands, the significant level of investment will be required to support increasing traveler volumes under changing levels. I have said that we are in this latent international demand, but the demand is there. The demand is there when the tourists will find safe, will feel safe, will feel they can travel again. And we have experienced in the last months, in short periods when the situation appeared to be better, the demand has tremendously recovered, tremendously increased. But at the same time, we have to consider that investing in hotel buildings means investing alongside the whole supply chain, and is a must as well. That with sustainability, not only the climate crisis that we have addressed in the COP 2026 in December 2019 is there. Of course, we have forgotten perhaps temporarily, and of course as well the biggest challenge that the impact, social impact, analyzing the social impact, measuring the social impact, what will come in the regulatory terms about sustainability, environmental and social sustainability in the coming years will be tremendous. Is accelerating as a whole. That's we have to be here to be prepared for it, and we have to take advantage of this low demand period to work on it, and especially on the developing countries. That I think that is the main idea of these webinars, and the main idea of the joint work between WTO and IFC. We have to take the momentum to measures, to take steps forward and to build a better, more resilient and sustainable tourism sector. This tourism sector is a mature tourism sector. This is coming in a completely new era, and we have to be prepared for it. And finally, I think the most important is to hear the people that are committed in these webinars. Thank again IFC for its commitment and support of this joint initiative, and of course I would like to congratulate the IDT team of the WTO, led by Natalia Bayona. In this case, especially the job done by Miguel Angel. He's doing a very great job. And thank you very much. I hope, I'm sure that we'll continue working on it, and will be interest for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Butler. Just to move with the agenda, we will start the first presentation with Madhu Rajesh. She's the CEO of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. And just for you to understand this process, I am excited to hear Madhu, because she knows and she's involved with a lot of different big brands worldwide. But also we invited Thomas from Booking.com. So he has a different approach, and I just want to see how can we balance together, how can we all learn from each other, and at the end, Rosemary will tie it up with the mechanisms and the system that we have for funding and green investments in this matter. So Madhu, I can take it from here.
Thank you so much, Miguel. I just want to confirm you can see my screen. Before I start?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. And as you say, Miguel, we have Thomas and Rosemary on the panel as well. You know, both organizations and people that Sustainable Hospitality Alliance collaborates with. So, you know, that's a great example of how different organizations are working together on this very important topic of sustainability that has just been highlighted by the keynote we've had. So great to be here and working with you. I'm really sorry, but my slides are not moving. So my screen just seems to be stuck on this. I think we might have to go on backup option.
Yeah, Tihana will help you in that.
But while we wait for the slides to sort of come up, what I will say is that you mentioned, Miguel, that we work with a number of the key brands, and that's indeed correct. Sustainable Hospitality Alliance is a membership organization that brings together the private sector, so represented by about 14 hotel companies that collectively represent 25% of the global hotel inventory, which is quite a powerful collective to have. But we have a very strong focus on the UN SDGs, and particularly SDG 17, which underpins everything we do, especially in context of partnerships. So we do take a lot of pride and focus a lot on convening multi-sector partnerships with the government, with the not-for-profit organizations, with civil society on that space. So here you will see some of the brands that are our member organizations that have come together because they recognize sustainability and some of the most material risks and issues that the industry faces are too big for any one brand to handle on their own. And actually that is why you need to focus on collective action that is relevant for the industry to make tangible and progressive pace. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So the 4 areas that the industry came together and aligned on after the UN SDGs were launched were the areas of people and planet. So in people, our focus is very much on human rights and youth employment. Human rights, because that's a big risk for the industry of modern slavery in our labor supply chains, and youth employment, because that's where there's a big opportunity for the industry to make a positive impact to its local communities in terms of providing economic opportunities for the people in the communities that hotels operate in. We will focus today on climate action and water stewardship, which is what we believe in when it comes to our planet agenda, because the industry is generally recognized, not recognized, but generally spoken of as a big consumer of both energy and water, and has a big contribution to make on planet issues. That is why it is an area of focus for the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So far, sorry, please click through so we can get the icons on the slide. So far, there are a lot of times that I've heard where sustainability, especially when it comes to the climate agenda, is very often spoken of as something which is morally the right thing to do. And in order to address this myth, last year we collaborated with the International Finance Corporation, and Rosemary will talk a little bit more about this in more detail later on in the presentation. But we wanted to bring the economic case for sustainability, because that is very important and often misunderstood. And actually, as we look at recovery post-COVID, given the economic impact the pandemic has had on us, that economic or the financial viability element of sustainability will be even more important. So what we've tried to do is look at different elements on where focusing on green buildings, focusing on climate action, provides hotels with an opportunity to look at boosting their profit margins, to look at increasing revenue from satisfying what consumers are asking for. And I'm sure Thomas will touch on this with the B2C element that Booking.com has. And equally, from a business to business perspective as well, there is an opportunity to increase revenue. Look at increasing value of assets, and I won't go through all these points on this slide, but as we move on through the presentation, I will cover each of these elements, which really contribute to what the business case for sustainability is. Please, could we move on to the next slide? So if we look at boosting profit margins, very often one of the things that we've come across in our research is that people perceive that sustainability requires upfront investment, and those investments are quite significant, as well as have long payback periods. So very often you will find that is a big barrier to thinking about sustainability when you think of designing a hotel at the upfront, or look at planning a refurbishment project. And actually what we found, or IFC has found through their research, is that Some of the investments that make the biggest impact are actually quite low value and therefore have a very small payback periods. Some of them have payback periods of a matter of weeks or months. And in the long run, they add so much value when it comes to operating margins that there's a real opportunity here for hotels to increase their profit margins just by thinking of these initiatives at the start of their journey of planning. Please, can we move on to the next slide? The second is the opportunity to increase revenue. And as I touched upon earlier, we are all in some ways part of each other's value chain, and every business across the world recognizes the need to focus on sustainability in their supply chain. Maybe not every, but most businesses do. And therefore, from a B2B perspective, as businesses are looking at procuring hotel inventory for their business, for their meetings, for whatever form of corporate travel they're doing, sustainability is increasingly becoming a criteria that is being used to in those requests for proposals and in those partnerships. Sustainability, certainly, I mean, there's data from Booking.com and other partners that suggests is something that is increasingly important to the normal average traveler. And this is something that has, the pandemic has enhanced our awareness of sustainability issues quite significantly. So my judgment is that we will continue to see this as an increasing trend over the coming years. So there is an opportunity for companies and hotels to really differentiate themselves and attract their customers as well as consumers or hotel guests by focusing on sustainability. I say that there's a two-pronged approach there. There's a need to do more when it comes to sustainability, but I also believe in terms of attracting the traveler, there is a need to communicate more around sustainability as well, because what we find with our members very often, there's a lot of good work that's happening, but it's in the background and perhaps happening at a technical level, which needs to be communicated in very simple language to showcase some of the excellent innovative initiatives that are already being undertaken and create awareness for work being done. Can we move on to the next slide, please? The third element we found was around future-proofing our investment strategies, and certainly with the increased investor focus on green buildings, if you have an asset which meets sustainability criteria and is actually quite forward-looking in the direction of travel of sustainability, that will add value to the asset and certainly satisfy some of the investor requirements that are increasingly going to be built in as the criteria that investors are hoping to achieve. And I'm sure Rosemary will touch on some of the green financing mechanisms that are available out there. Let's move on to the next slide, please. The other factor that comes into play is both regulatory risks as well as incentives, because this is such an area of focus. Governments are looking at the issue in two different ways. One is, what are the regulatory compliance mechanisms they can build in to ensure compliance, and we see that in certain parts of Europe where the basic regulatory standards that you need to achieve are quite high, but perhaps less so in the developing worlds, and that's where the incentives come in. So I think both those need to and are increasingly operating in parallel to encourage action in this area. Let's move on to the next slide. Certifications. Now that's really important because people who don't even understand sustainability, but they walk into a hotel and they will see this hotel is platinum certified or LEED or BREEAM or whatever that certification may be. It immediately just strikes an awareness that this hotel is thinking about sustainability, and that's a very strong signal to go. So increasingly we'll see, both from a consumer resonance perspective, but also in terms of the asset value of the actual hotel itself, certifications will and are an investment in the longevity of the asset. So that's something to bear in mind. Let's move on to the next slide, please. And then, the focus on ensuring long-term energy supply from sustainable sources. There is a huge amount of work that's happening on this, and renewable energy is becoming an increasing area of focus and actually serves to reduce cost as well. So those are the 6 key trends which we are seeing, that actually sustainability is not just about cost, it has a commercial element which needs to be considered, and it's in the interest of everyone who is thinking of operating a hotel to really think of sustainability as part of designing hotels. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So I guess one key point in this analysis for us was that very often the focus is in our industry on what are individual brands doing to promote sustainability. And from what we learned was that the complexity of the value chain for the industry is very often lost in the process because of the complex model that we have. And not many people are aware that actually the brands have an asset-light business model, so they don't actually own the properties. It's their brand name on the hotel and operating procedures that people buy into, and that's why collaboration across the industry value chain is really important if you are really thinking of sustainability, because operationally there is a limit to what can be achieved. But if sustainability criteria are integrated in the planning stage before a hotel is built, before it's conceptualized, or before a refurbishment is planned, that's where there's the real opportunity for us. And so it's very important that we see ourselves as part of an ecosystem and work with everyone from investors, asset managers, the owners, the developers, the operators, and the brands and the franchisees, so that holistic integrated action that would be really meaningful can take place. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So there's a number of tools, free tools and resources that are available on our website at Sustainable Hospitality Alliance that I'd like to just signpost the audience to. The business case for sustainable hotels that we developed with the International Finance Corporation. I would encourage everyone to read it. There's lots of research here, as well as some great case studies. And two tools that we've co-developed with the industry and some key partners, the Hotel Carbon Measurement Initiative and the Hotel Water Measurement Initiative, which are really tools where hotels can look at their water and energy usage, understand it better, benchmark against other hotels in their region, and then take some action once they have tangible data to tell them about. And across our membership, 25 to 30,000 hotels are using it. So very well recognized tools available absolutely for free on our website, along with webinars and guidance on how they can be used. So I'd just like to encourage any hotel anywhere in the world that would find them useful to use them. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madhu. Was really, really interesting. And just to emphasize what you were saying, I consider myself a retail investor, and I was in the earnings report of Marriott, I think 2 days ago, and they actually beat expectations for earnings. And it was super interesting because I was reading through the report that they had, and one of the key elements was the efficiency in the operations that they had, and how intentional they were in regards how to cut as much as they can, of course, the cost. But if you see in retrospect what you explained before in your presentation and in the research that you published before, is something that we should supposed to be doing, right? So this is for me an opportunity to see how the things are supposed to be done, and how much we need to improve in the sector. And the second thing I want to emphasize as well is the power of the ecosystem in the tourism sector. We have different subsectors as well, and also the intersection with technology will actually boost this process towards sustainability, especially when we come with solutions related with transitions, with energy, and also with the behavior of the consumers in this post-COVID era. And so I think that is our cue for Thomas, which also, when you see the stock market, booking was rallying as well these last 3 days, and he has one of the strongest balance sheets in the stock market. So Thomas, you are up. I think it's really exciting to see the different perspective that you are working, coming from a non-traditional organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to take a second to thank you for the opportunity to present on this call and to show a little bit about what is happening over at Booking.com. So it's quite nice. Just to confirm everyone can hear and see the deck and everything.
Yes, you are.
I'll take it. Yes, that's fine. Perfect. So my name is Thomas. I work with supply Booking.com. I work with Bea and Becca on the topic. At Booking.com, we make it easier for everyone to experience the world. We believe we have a shared responsibility along with our industry to make sure that there's a world worth experiencing. We know that there's opportunity. In fact, 86% of travelers want to travel more sustainably, but only half often or always manage to do so. On the flip side, the partner, 82% of partners want to work with us on this topic. However, we know that there are frictions. On the customer side, there's a lack of knowledge on how to make sustainable choices. There's a lack of transparency on which properties are sustainable, and there's a higher cost perception. For the partner, there's a lack of understanding of impact, a lack of incentives, and a lack of knowledge and tools. We also know that some partners who have enabled sustainable practices often prefer to keep them quiet because there's a lack of confidence on how to craft the message, a fear that the guests might think their experience will be negatively impacted, or a fear of sounding too preachy or patronizing. We also know from research that coronavirus has amped people's awareness of their impact on the environment and local communities. 69% of travelers expect the travel industry to offer more sustainable options. 55% of travelers want to see how their money is going back to local communities. And 53% of travelers want to reduce their waste and recycle their plastics. We also know that due to COVID-19, some partners may have moved away from more sustainable practices as part of their health and safety measures. To support the partner on that, we worked in an advisory capacity with the UNEP on a program that they rolled out on plastic pollution. We then shared this document with our partners in the Partner Hub so that they had enough information so they could make the right decisions. So we know that we have our philosophy, we have opportunity, and we've identified the frictions. So how then do we make it possible for customers to make more sustainable choices? It starts off with collecting and identifying what partners are currently doing. We then surface that information to the guest in the booking process to create awareness. We then use that awareness to leverage against the collection of the data so we can move the program further. What does our program look like? So we have it split into two tiers. The first tier is a model that we've created with experts and has been reviewed by peers, where a partner can tick yes or no binary questions to actions or attributes that they have carried out that fall under one of the 5 categories: energy, greenhouse gases, water, waste, biodiversity, ecosystems, and destination and community. We also acknowledge and recognize that certifications already exist along with changed sustainability programs. We want to collect the information from Tier 1 and Tier 2, couple it together, and display it to the guests in the booking process so that we can increase sustainable supply and demand. We know that our road is long. We've broken it into 3 phases. The first phase is about learning and breadth. What is the baseline? What is everybody currently doing? What can we learn about from the customer's point of view and the partner's point of view? We then take those learnings so that we can dive deeper in phase 2, where we can give the partner real actionable data that they can use to increase their impact. In the final stage, we want to have a product that can be universally adopted within the industry. If we were to plot our partners in their sustainability journey in each of the phases, starting with the learning and breadth, if you look at the bottom of the graph, you can see sustainable efforts. So in the bottom left-hand corner, this is 0 to low efforts currently made. And then up in the right, that's a more mature sustainable product. We can see that from our partner population, the majority of partners tend to plot towards the left-hand side of the graph. This is a clear message to us that we need to show the partner the impact of their actions, incentivize and provide tools, support and educate, so we can get partners on their journey to become more sustainable. In the second phase, the depth phase, you can already see that our partners are on that journey and they've gained confidence on the topic and they're starting to move towards a more mature product. And then in the final stages, we have a majority of our partners trending towards a more sustainable product. So what does this currently look like to our partners and to our guests? If we look, for example, at the partner first, we've created a sustainability landing page where the partner can interact with the topics of sustainability. They can find the what and the why on the topic. And once they've rolled out the action, or they've enabled the action at in their operations, they can then click through to the facilities page in the extranet and take yes or no to the binary questions, whether they've enabled them or not. This is the first version of our list. We intend by the end of the year to have a second, more extensive list of attributes. And we also intend to collect programs and certifications, sustainability programs and certifications as well. Finally, this is what the guest sees. So you'll see the first screen is the desktop. Then we have iOS and Android. And then we have the mobile web version. The three to the right are currently live. The version that's on the desktop is in its second iteration for A/B testing, but soon to be live soon. We know that we're in a very early stage of our journey, but we see that there's lots of opportunity to support our partners on their journey so that we simplify it for them. We need to make sure that we're supporting them in the right way so that we can really drive impact, because you can see already that we have a huge amount of work ahead of us. Yeah, thank you so much for the time to present. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thomas. It was really super clear. I really appreciate it, and our previous conversations as well. I just want to emphasize also here, it's super interesting, like the business model that Booking has, like the B2C, but also the B2B, sorry, but also the B2C, because one of the main issues is the communication. Like our Secretary General says that the trust is the new currency in this new era. And I love how you are actually make it tangible for the consumers. And there's a lot of new conversations on the behavioral economics behind the demand, and how can we as an ecosystem communicate and deliver a clear message for transparency, for instance, not just to say like we want something more sustainable. And I think you guys are doing a really good job. And I think these conversations also work for that. Rusmir, I don't want to take your time. You are the last piece that can glue these pieces together. Can you give us your insights on these things?
Great. I hope you can see my screen now as well. Always doing the check. So thank you so much for having us. Again, we're so happy to be collaborating with you and WTO and really speaking amongst all of these really famous speakers. And you know, if you take anything away from today, is read the report that Madhu has shared, because we put truly our best thinking in there. The only thing that has changed is IFC numbers went up by $1 billion. I mean, we are literally investing $1 billion every year in green buildings because we see it as an incredibly profitable business for everybody in the end. So you heard from me, my name is Rusmir Music. I am the Global Business Development Lead for IFC's Edge Green Building Program. And our goal is to help you access green finance as a way of recovery post-COVID. We want to use these unprecedented times when some of these sites are still closed to take a look inward and understand how to return to a new and better normal post-COVID. So you may ask, why green financing? First of all, there are trillions of dollars in assets that have been pledged to climate action after the Paris Agreement. Everyone from multilateral development banks such as IFC, to commercial banks with an ESG focus, to institutional investors such as pension funds, are looking for quality green projects. And you heard that IFC has invested $6.5 billion there. We can help you access these green international flows for better and cheaper financing, as well as to help you save on utility bills on site as well. I want to pause very quickly and define what makes a green building. International green building definitions agree that a building must be certified as green, have a 20% better performance than the local baseline, and have quantified impact reporting. The good news is that if you comply with the above criteria, 100% of the new finance or even the refinance can be counted as green. And this is incredibly attractive to investors that have a high commitment to sustainable investing. We can help you reach this standard through our green building program called EDGE, which stands for Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies. EDGE consists of 3 components. First, our software is fully free. You can access it from edgebuildings.com. And the software will help you choose the most cost-effective ways to build green. You saw from Madhu's example that we put through lots of properties through the system to find out what is my incremental cost, how quickly will I be able to pay that back, to then find that return on investment. And the news is, again, it's typically less than 1 year when it's a new building, maybe 1 to 2 years if it's a retrofit place, but still very, very attractive. Second, EDGE is an achievable green building standard that has that 20% resource efficiency criteria built in. And we have calculated baselines for each country and even under the different tiers of hotels. So again, you can put your property through. And third, EDGE is a certification system to verify and reward green building projects through a green label. Now that we know these definitions and some of the business case, let's take a look at what are the financial mechanisms that can allow deployment. And again, very important, just like the case studies that Madhu showed, these are not theoretical case studies. We have gone through this work with many, many investors before. The most straightforward way is for hotels to get a loan from either a global bank or a local financial institution. IFC is very interested in doing this work if you have a portfolio of properties that's sizable enough. So it's a little bit harder for us to work with an individual property when it comes to retrofit, much easier when it's a new investment. But if you're an asset owner that owns and manages a number of properties, we can invest in you directly, or you can get that investment through another global bank or local bank, for example, such as HSBC. If you're this asset owner, the EDGE software allows you the self-assessment to identify green measures, and again, for free, whether you want to change the design of a new project or to identify refurbishments for existing projects. And then finally, brands can use EDGE for impact reporting through additional assistance as well, and we have executed these with other institutions. In the second model, global institutions are investing in the local banks, which are then on lending to local projects. This helps investment banks such as IFC reach projects of a smaller size where we otherwise wouldn't be able to invest. IFC is very interested in this model, and we're in the process of launching what we call Hotel Green Revitalization Program. The program works with local banks in pilot countries to deploy a facility with two pieces. One, to help you refinance your debt, your existing debt, and two, to include green retrofitting in that process. The funds are dispersed to local financial institutions, and we also will be providing technical assistance for hotel owners. Again, if you're a local bank, raise your hand, we will talk to you. We're happy to work with you and get you included. Or if you're an asset owner, make sure that your bank knows that you're interested in this particular option. Because when IFC works with local financial institutions, they need to know that they can deploy our financing. So the more of you that are raising your hand and having that conversation with your local banks, it helps us build a business case for the bank as well. Another model is the aggregator model. This can be done through different platforms. For example, a hotel brand can help us put together all projects in a particular country. We have proposed working, for example, with UNWTO through their investment forums and find a way to structure a number of different projects in a country. And then IFC or another global bank can invest in what will be an investment fund versus a commercial bank so that we can deploy this particular financing. The financing will be structured so that the savings pay back for the upgrades. And again, the certification serves as the compliance and reporting mechanism across the entire platform that everybody wins. One of the last mechanisms I'll cover is through capital markets. So green bonds, for example, and now green loans are a very fast-growing finance mechanism, and they're being sought after by institutional investors or asset managers who are looking for long-term investments. Again, for example, pension funds. And a green bond can be issued by various bodies in the hotel chain, but they have to have enough projects in the pipeline to justify a sizable bond. The bond can be deployed for new projects, for refurbishment, but also for refinance of existing projects if the cost of financing is cheaper than the original interest rate. Banks which own large portfolio of loans can also securitize the whole portfolio and free up the cash for new projects. What you saw today is just a very short preview of the extensive resources that IFC has that can help you succeed, whether you're a hotel owner, investor, or a consultant in this space. We invite you to work with us, to utilize the free Edge software. There's much training available on our website, as well as the UNWTO website, and we launched ongoing technical training as well as training to banks. We're doing a webinar just next week on this topic. We want to work with you to identify your interest in financing, and we hope to start deploying our own funds soon through local financial institutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you. I will introduce you to Natalia Bayona. She will be leading this next part of the panel. Natalia?
Yeah, I'm here, Miguel. My pleasure to be here with you, with these high-level experts on investment. So today we have Madhu. Of course, you are the Chief Executive Officer of Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. We have Thomas, one of our main partners inside the UNWTO, leading, of course, sustainability in booking. And as I always say, our partner in crime, because thanks to him, we are here today, that is Rosemary. So we have listened to an amazing keynote, and of course, about the Global Edge and all the programs that we have in order to support green investments. And of course, it's my pleasure to have a sister agency leading by example on green investments. So Rosemary, once again, re-welcome and re-welcome the IFC. So as you know, innovation and sustainability has to be our new normal. So I would like to ask this first question to you, Madhu. So what is the role of sustainability in the tourism recovery? What are the major challenges of opportunities for sustainable investments in tourism?
Thank you so much for the question, and I think it's a very pertinent one. As I mentioned before, when you look at recovery of tourism and you look at the economic impact that the industry has had, it was one of the worst impacted. It was one of the first to be impacted, and it'll probably be one of the last to recover, even with a vaccine. You know, the financial pressures that the industry is under are huge, and that's why looking at it in terms of how do we create financial returns and how do we make it financially viable and profitable, that is going to be, you know, a key consideration for hotels as they open their doors again, and also for owners and investors. So I think that is something that is very important, that we look at sustainability from an economic perspective and the rationale for doing that, but also then the opportunity is to use this as an opportunity where the value chain for the industry comes together and works in it, because that's where you'll see the maximum impact.
Very nice and very insightful. I would like to come back to Rosemary. So you have been working with us a lot. I think that you are a UNWTO ambassador today. So to be honest, what are the key concrete and practical facilitation indicators that are a priority for sustainable investments?
I think honestly, the asset owners just need to believe us that this is a profitable case. We really just want to blow out of the water the idea that green means expensive, it means unavailable in your country. We are showing over and over and over, you can absolutely do this. It's, you know, hotels use so much energy and resources on site, it becomes something that, you know, managing your own triple bottom line. So we're here to spread awareness. I think that's the key part. The second is, you know, there may be some need for technical assistance, but in the end, honestly, it's not rocket science. We're not sending a man to the moon. We're putting low flow taps in showers, maybe some solar panels. All of this is affordable, it's achievable. So what we want is just to help spread the word. Where we can get extra help is from governments to start creating some enabling mechanisms. Let's say with net metering, so that the solar becomes more profitable for them, or banks to start putting in incentives so that to help their projects switch from brown to green. And again, we have lots of ways to show even no cost options for both banks and governments to start moving the market in the end.
Thanks a lot. So as you said, it's not rocket science. It's a little bit about passion and of course about including sustainability as part of the core business of the different developments. And last but not least, my dear Thomas, that you're working in innovation, of course. And one of the most amazing things that I have seen is that, of course, a startup that is not a startup, that is now a scale up as Booking, has inside the priorities sustainable tourism. And that's amazing because, of course, once again, you're leading by example. And once again, you are sharing knowledge and giving the opportunity to youth and to startups to grow through different booking platforms. So my question to you will be, what innovations might be or might help to satisfy the unique requirements for sustainable investment in tourism projects and its value chain aggregators?
Yeah, I very much agree with the answers that were given before this, and I think it ties in nicely to what we're trying to achieve. I also think that the what exists, we really need to work on the how for partners, because we have these frictions that the partners are struggling with. So we need to work with our product teams to make a scalable solution that allows transparency and for partners to communicate without feeling that they have to green hush their efforts. Then we want to connect that with technologies to make it possible for consumers to make more sustainable choices. And we believe that if we couple the two of these things together, we can accelerate adoption of sustainability. So we do think we have a part to play there, because we have that scale and we have, like you say, we have a lot of product and tech people on board. So it's nice.
That's amazing. You know, when I talk, of course, as we are working for the world, because here, Madhu, you and Rusmir and all of the people that are listening to us, I think that the common thing is that, of course, we want the tourism recovery, but of course, we have to do it the right way. And to us, doing the right way is using sustainability, innovation, and of course, empowering youth to create new ideas. And when we foster or have been fostering startup competitions in the past, for good or for bad, we have seen a lot of synergies with different institutions, corporates, because of course, innovators are always competing and they love to apply in different competitions, in different places, because of course, what I see is that of course is mandatory, not only to support them, to see that we have a lot of talented people that want, through technology and through sustainability, to recover better the tourism sector. So of course, I would like to thank all of you. I have seen hundreds of people connecting here. So Miguel, it's an amazing job what you have done. So, and of course, I have seen a lot of people that are looking through our YouTube channel as well. To Mr. Butler, that is a very busy man. He's the second in the organization and he was listening and working with us during this venture. To Maru, to Thomas, to Rusmir, to the whole team. And of course, to all the participants that are here, I encourage you to, of course, take the best of this webinar, but of course, to download all the reports. If you go to unwto.org/investments, you will find the presentation of Rusmir, the program that we are running together with the IFC, the investment guidelines that we are developing. So of course, let's work together. The challenge is huge, but we have to do it. And I know that with all our passion, our commitment, and of course, our minds, we will be able to travel again and we will be able to recover this amazing sector. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.